The knock didn't sound like a neighbor's. It was heavy, deliberate, and carried the arrogance of someone who thought they owned the block. When I opened the blinds, a man stood on my porch dressed in a tactical vest that read HOA Cop in bold white letters. Fake badge clipped to his belt, mirrored sunglasses on, clipboard in hand, like he was about to write me a ticket in my own living room. That was my first red flag. There's no such thing as an HOA police force. The law is clear. Under 18 U.S. Code 912, impersonating a federal or local officer is a felony. But this guy didn't care. He carried himself like someone who believed intimidation was stronger than truth. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. Now, here's the backstory. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Nothing flashy, nothing fancy. Just a house I worked hard for with a good fence, 2 loyal dogs, and enough cameras to keep an eye on every corner. The local HOA, though, that's where the peace ends. They started small. Notes about my trash cans, reminders about my driveway, even a complaint that my porch light was too bright. Petty, but manageable. The real trouble started when I rescued 2 German Shepherd mixes, Thor and Shadow. Trained, obedient, protective, and apparently too intimidating for the HOA's liking. They claimed I hadn't registered them properly under their so-called community pet policy. Thing is, state law requires registration with the county, not a neighborhood committee. And my dogs were fully licensed and vaccinated. But the HOA didn't let facts get in the way of control. That's when the enforcer showed up. This fake cop wasn't a stranger. I'd seen him at HOA meetings before, sitting behind the president like hired muscle. He strutted up my porch, rapped on the door again, and shouted, "By order of the Shadow Creek HOA, we're conducting a security inspection. Open up, or we'll force entry." I didn't move. Instead, I turned on the porch camera's 2-way mic and said flatly, "You're trespassing. HOA has no police powers. Leave now before I call the real cops." He smirked, tapped his fake badge, and stepped back like he was preparing to push the door in. My blood boiled, but I held back. The key to guys like him is patience. Let them make the first mistake. And he was about to make a big one. Because what he didn't know was that breaking into my home meant crossing more than just a legal boundary. It meant meeting Thor and Shadow, and my boys don't take kindly to intruders. The pounding didn't stop. My front door shook under his fists, then his shoulder. The fake HOA cop shouted like he had backup waiting in the street. "Last warning, you open this door or I'm coming in myself." I stayed quiet. The porch cam was rolling, my phone already recording, and 911 was dialed in my hand with my thumb hovering over call. But I wanted proof, undeniable proof, before the cops showed. And then it happened. With one brutal kick, my door frame splintered, the lock gave way, and he stormed inside. Boots stomping, fake vest creaking, clipboard clattering to the floor. The man thought he had control. What he had instead was a one-way ticket to regret. Thor was the first to react. A flash of black and tan fur bolted from the hallway, teeth bared, chest rumbling like rolling thunder. Shadow was a heartbeat behind, ears pinned, eyes locked like a laser sight. The fake cop froze for half a second, muttering, "What the?" before Thor lunged. The sound of his scream when 80 pounds of muscle hit him square in the chest will echo in this house forever. He stumbled back, arms flailing, but Shadow was already at his legs, teeth snapping just inches from his boots. He went down hard, crashing into the hallway table, spilling a lamp onto the floor. If you're enjoying this HOA story so far, like and subscribe because the story is only going to get better. I stepped into view, calm, phone still in hand, recording the whole thing. My voice carried steady as a judge's gavel. "You broke into my home, you assaulted my door, and now you're trespassing against 2 very angry dogs." Thor had him pinned, teeth bared inches from his throat, while Shadow circled, barking loud enough to wake the neighborhood. The man's sunglasses had been knocked off, revealing wide, terrified eyes. He tried bluffing through the fear. "Call them off. You'll be charged for an attack dog assault." I shook my head. Wrong again. Under stand your ground law in this state, I have every right to defend myself and my property. You entered unlawfully. You're lucky it's only my dogs you're dealing with. Right on cue, my neighbors began peeking out their windows, phones raised. A couple even stepped onto their lawns, filming. The fake cop's confidence crumbled as the weight of reality sank in. I gave a short command, "Hold," and both dogs froze, Thor still pressing him to the ground, Shadow snarling low but not biting. Perfect control. Proof they weren't attacking at random but responding to an intruder. The sirens in the distance sealed it. Real law enforcement was on the way, and my evidence, the footage, the neighbors, and the wrecked door, was airtight. The fake HOA cop looked up at me, sweat running down his forehead, and stammered, You don't know who you're messing with." I smiled coldly. "Oh, I think I do. And in about 30 seconds, so will the real police. The flashing lights lit up my whole street like a football stadium. 2 patrol cars screeched to a halt, real deputies stepping out with their hands on their belts. My neighbors gathered closer, recording everything. And there on my floor, with Thor's teeth still hovering inches from his throat, was the fake HOA cop. The deputies stormed inside. "Get off him!" one shouted. I gave a sharp whistle. Thor backed off instantly, Shadow following his lead, both of them sitting neatly at my side like soldiers awaiting orders. That control alone told the deputies everything. These weren't attack dogs. These were protectors, trained, disciplined, and responding only to a threat. "What's going on here?" the deputy demanded. I raised my phone, replaying the footage of the man kicking down my door, barging inside, and being taken down by the dogs. My neighbors chimed in, holding up their own videos. The deputy looked at the intruder, now sweating and stammering. He tried bluffing again. "I'm with the HOA. This is official business. He's got violent dogs." The deputy cut him off. "Sir, you're in a fake vest. You broke into this man's home. You're under arrest for breaking and entering, criminal impersonation, and trespassing." The man was cuffed on my porch while neighbors applauded. Karen, who had been watching from her lawn, ducked inside her house without saying a word. But the story didn't end there. 2 weeks later, I was served with a stack of papers. The same guy, now facing charges, had filed a civil lawsuit against me. He claimed my dogs attacked him and demanded they be put down. That was the day I walked into court with my lawyer, and with the same video evidence that had already sunk him once. The footage showed every second. The threats, the forced entry, the dogs responding, and my precise command to stop. Not one frame showed them attacking without cause. The judge didn't even hesitate. Case dismissed. Then she turned to the man. "And consider yourself lucky these dogs didn't do more. You're alive because their owner trained them with discipline." The cherry on top? My attorney cited Section 841 of state self-defense law, which clearly states that if a dog acts to defend its owner during an unlawful intrusion, the owner bears no liability. And I had every legal right to let Thor and Shadow protect me on my own property. The fake cop didn't just lose his lawsuit. He walked out of court humiliated, still facing criminal charges, with no hope of getting my dogs touched. Thor and Shadow came home that night with extra steaks in their bowls. Justice well earned. And Karen? She never so much as looked my way again. The HOA went dead quiet, like someone had ripped the batteries out of their megaphone. I stood on my porch that evening, dogs sitting proudly on either side of me, watching the sunset over the neighborhood. For the first time in weeks, the street was peaceful again. And I realized something. Bullies only win when you let them. But when you've got truth, law, and 2 loyal dogs at your side, well, there's not a fake cop in the world who can stand against that. At the end of the day, titles and fake badges don't protect bullies, but the truth, the law, and 2 loyal dogs sure protected me. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more HOA stories like this. The end.